Hello friends. For today's video, I'm going to be going through a bunch of books that I plan to take into my local used bookstore, and then I figured I'd bring you along with me and we can see how much store credit I get for all of these books. It is a large amount of books, so fingers crossed that we get some pretty good store credit. Kicking it off though, I have the Winnowing Flame trilogy by Jen Williams. One of my favorites, not getting rid of these because I dislike the series, but because I have these hardbacks now from the broken binding, I don't really need these editions. Sometimes it's kind of nice to have paperbacks of a series that you have in hardback for something like the Stormlight Archive, for example, because if you're going to be going and rereading or if you're theorizing or anything like that, those floppy paperbacks for Stormlight are just the best. And these are not that kind of paperback, and they're also the same covers as those hardbacks. Those hardbacks are great. I don't need the same exact copies, you know what I mean, by the covers and stuff like that in paperback. So I'm going to take these in, and I'm very excited because that means hopefully somebody can find the whole trilogy and get them. That'll be so exciting because these are not things that you typically find in local bookstores. Sticking with things that I am taking in because of the broken binding, they recently have started this series, the first one being The Wolf of Oren-Yaru, in hardbacks as well. The first one's already come in, so I'm taking in the first and the second. I don't know how long it's going to take before I get the third one, but I do plan to keep the third one for now until my hardback of it comes in from the broken binding, because that's the only one I haven't read in the trilogy yet. So I'm going to take these two in. If you haven't seen the hardback yet though of the broken binding edition, it's so cool. So the cover matches, but if you take the sleeve off, just like with the Winnowing Flame trilogy, what's on the naked hardback looks amazing, and they're taller than the paperbacks, so it's pretty much just the exact same situation as Winnowing Flame. Next up, we have Kindred by Octavia Butler. I loved this book. It was one of my favorite things that I've read this year. I just don't love this edition of it. I plan to kind of upgrade because I loved it so much. I would like to have a nicer edition of it, and so I figured I'd go ahead and take it in. I even think I've seen nicer editions at my local bookstores, so I might even be able to basically swap it out. There are a few that it's not that I have hardbacks or that I liked them, but I want a different edition. There are some that just ultimately I don't plan to continue on with the series or anything like that, but that's not true for this next one either. So the next one would be Know My Name by Chanel Miller. This is a fantastic nonfiction book. I highly recommend it to everyone. It is very difficult to read though, but I loved it, which is not probably the right way to put it. I thought it was a fantastic book as far as how it's written, and I thought the way that she conveyed everything was very impactful. So my local library had this fun little summer reading challenge, and you could enter how many hours you've been reading, and if you met a certain amount, then you could come into their Friends of the Library sale and you could pick out a book. And they happened to have had this one in hardback, and there weren't a ton of other things I was all that interested in, but I figured like, oh, okay, well, I'll just go ahead and get the hardback then, and then I'll bring this into a local bookstore. Now though, getting to some things that are not things that I love and just got upgraded editions or plan to get upgraded editions for. Next up, we have The Final Strife. I ended up picking up the sequel, The Battle Drum, and I DNF'd it pretty quickly. This series, I think the world building is really cool, and I think that some of the themes are done really well, but I just find the characters a little annoying. So I think I would be better off just, well, I didn't continue the second one because pretty quickly the characters were already starting to annoy me. I was kind of hoping after the first book that they would have maybe matured a little bit in the way they speak to each other, in the way they act, but there's just something about their behavior that feels kind of juvenile just a little bit. And as somebody who is such a character-driven reader, I can sometimes forgive it if I'm just so enthralled by the world or the politics or the plot. And I'm not really with this series. This is the UK edition though, so I am hopeful that somebody will see it and be really excited because then they can get their hands on a nice UK hardback. After that, we have The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy. I didn't dislike this one, but I didn't love it. This is a special edition, and I know for myself, when I find special editions used at my local bookstore, I get really excited. So I figure I'll go ahead and take this one in, and hopefully somebody can have that same level of excitement if they find this one. After that, we have A Lesson in Vengeance. I actually ended up DNFing this one. It's a dark academia story. You follow a girl who has been going to this prestigious school, and then something happened to her roommate, and you're kind of trying to piece together what happened, and then there's odd things occurring where it seems like maybe there's something with a haunting. And so it had all of the nice ingredients that you find in a lot of dark academia, but I just didn't care. So I just don't plan to keep going. Dark academia, I'm finding it's not my favorite subgenre. So if you have any dark academia recommendations that you feel like maybe you don't typically like it, but you liked certain ones, feel free to leave those. Or if you're somebody who loves it and you have read a ton of it and you have your own recommendations, pretty much if you just have recommendations for dark academia, let me know, because that one, I just wasn't that interested. And then after that, we have 7 Faceless Saints. This is a special edition. I did not really care for this one. I thought the world building was really cool, and I thought that the premise was great, but a lot of the book just turned into angsty pining, and it got kind of repetitive. And it just wasn't the thing that I thought was cool about the book, and so I wish we had focused on all the other elements of it. So somebody else maybe who did enjoy this book can now find special edition. Speaking of special editions, next up we have a special edition of Caraval by Stephanie Garber. This was a gift from my husband for Christmas one year because my biggest guilty pleasure, I don't know what it is about the series, I just have the most fun with it, would be her other series that's recently come out. So after reading that series, I was planning on picking up this trilogy just to see what I thought of it. And I don't hate it the way that other people really hate it, but I also didn't love it. But my husband, knowing that I liked that other series, had picked up this special edition for me. So I held on to it for a long time because I'm like, oh, but it was a present. But I asked Sean the other day if he cared if I took it in. He's like, no, I don't care at all. And I also wouldn't even be surprised if he forgot that he got this for me. But I mean, I did check with him and he doesn't mind. So taking this one in, obviously, that's what I'm doing with all of these. Taking this one in as well. Going rapid fire through the remaining books, we have The Ones We're Meant to Find. Interestingly enough, my local bookstore had the Owl Crate edition of this, so I picked up the Owl Crate edition, and now I'm going to take in the regular edition. After that, we have the floppy edition of Elantris. So I did talk about the floppy editions of Stormlight being so fantastic to read. This one is equally floppy, but I don't know that I need to go back through and look through Elantris the same way I might want to continue doing with Stormlight Archive. Plus, it's not nearly as long. And then The Pariah. This was a recent read, and I really liked Bloodsong by Anthony Ryan, so I was excited to pick up The Pariah. This one didn't work for me. I was intrigued at the beginning, and because of Bloodsong, I knew that maybe it would just take a while before it really pulled you in. But I just felt like I was consistently waiting to be pulled in, and I was consistently waiting to care about our main character, and I never did. So this one, unfortunately, was a little bit of a miss for me, but it seems like it's been a hit for a lot of other people, so don't let that deter you. If it sounds good to you, you should pick it up. The last two would be Chaos and Flame. I talked about this in a recent new fantasy video, so elaboration there, but similar to what I said about 7 Faceless Saints, there's a lot of angst in this, which I don't mind some angst, but it was not the thing that I cared about in this story, and it was the thing that it felt like kind of took over, so it just didn't work. And then last we have Silver Under Nightfall. This one was just a little too similar to me to Castlevania, and I think that is the inspiration for a lot of the characters and things like that. But for me, while reading it, I just wanted to watch Castlevania. I don't know that it felt like it stood on its own strong enough for me. These are all the books, though, quite a few of them, that I'll be taking in, and we'll go ahead and see how much store credit I get. Got my tote bags. That one says Books and Dogs, obviously. This one looks like a magical version of Luna Bear. And then this one
is just the forest. And Luna has a blanket that matches.
Are you gonna help, Luna? Are you gonna help? No. Okay. Maybe? Oh, yay! Yay! Okay, don't step on the bags though. I gotta put books in them. Bookstory time!
I mean, hi.
Much cooler.
We are back from the store and Luna's very excited. Yay! Yeah! Oh! Wow, Luna. You got your mouse? Yeah? Alright, let's see what we got. Let's see what we got.
We got 68 in-store credit and we already had over 50. So Sean found a couple of books. He found 3 books. And then I actually got some violin music because violin music can be kind of pricey. So I was excited. Vivaldi, The Four Seasons. I promise if you're not really a classical music person, you definitely know summer and spring. Summer is, I feel like, the piece that everybody plays in all of those America's Got Talent type of shows. And everybody's always like, oh my gosh, they're amazing. And it's really flashy and it's not actually that hard. Mendelssohn is difficult, but I've always wanted to attempt to learn it. This one, I don't know what's in it. It just says 31 pieces by 15 composers. So I'm excited to see what this is. And then Sean found this cute little notebook and he was like, oh, you have to get it. So I got this cute little notebook because I love notebooks. So that is what we got with our fun little used bookstore visit. I hope you had fun tagging along with me to my local bookstore. Thanks so much for watching though. I hope you all have a great rest of your day and I'll see you later. Bye.